This is David Wheatley, and welcome to David Wheatley's podcast, episode 3. I hope everyone has listened to episode 1 and 2, because we went to a lot of trouble to make episodes 1 and 2. You're enjoying them. So episode 3, I'd like to talk some about defense theory. Defense theory is how we protect ourselves. Protect ourselves from what? Physical attacks, people saying mean things to us, emotional duress and upset, spiritual upset, and cognitive dissonance, how to protect ourselves from that dissonance so it becomes manageable. And so the list of defense theories, there are, I expect, hundreds of these. And I'll go over some of the more popular ones. An example is, I'll just use this example. There is a Hershey bar with almonds missing from a store. I don't know how they keep track of one being missing, but in this example, they do. And the kid comes out of the store, and they converge on him and say, "Hey, kid, we're missing a Hershey bar with almonds, and we think you took it." So this kid doesn't like the dissonance of, "Hey, I was supposed to walk out of the store, get a perfectly nice day, and what happened instead is all these people are on my case." So that creates anxiety and dissonance in him. I'm going to say him. So what are the options that he has to defend himself? The first and most popular, I expect, without doing any extensive sociological and psychological research, would be denial. I didn't do it. Second was, I didn't even see the Hershey bar. Third, I didn't know you had Hershey bars. Fourth, I don't even like Hershey bars. 5, if I had one, I wouldn't eat it. And none of my friends like them either. I don't hang out with people that like Hershey bars. No offense to Hershey bars, by the way. I happen to like them. Other defenses would be to say that the person is mistaken. They got wrong information. If this starts to sound like what a defense lawyer does in a court case, you'd be right. Coming up with these theories, which already exist in people, they just get explained. And the opposite of defense theory is being able to take on as much responsibility as possible. And the more a person gets stressed out, that is, more dissonance over extended periods of time, the more the person has to resort to defense theory. One of the best ways to avoid having to defend at all is to take a witness with you into the store. I just thought of that one now. The kid needs to go in there with another kid, actually a grown-up, somebody credible, ideally a judge, a retired judge who's never had any scandals, to observe the child's behavior in the store at all times and not turn away even for a moment so that he can vouch for the child. The child did not take that Hershey bar. And this is why in Law and Order they say, well, were there any witnesses? Well, yeah, there was that guy in the jailhouse snitch. He was there. Yeah, but he was trying to get a lighter sentence, so he's not credible. We can't believe him. So how does this dissonance get resolved so we don't have to defend ourselves? One is to think like a computer. Remember in the early days when we had RAM memory, which was now, for a number of meg, now we're into the gig 16, 32, 64 gig of RAM, which is equivalent to the brain power that a person has when they're sitting thinking. And anxiety takes up brain power. So the more anxiety, more brain power gets used up. When we add in all the data, an older person has more days of experience to remember. People who read books have more to remember. People with more friends have more to remember, birthdays and sibling chronologies and age and where somebody lived and where they went to school, what their degree was. And so as all of this grows up, and the RAM space gets more and more consumed, we're left with smaller and smaller increments to process current data, which might just be a gig worth. So this can make a person's cognitive system overload because they're having difficulty differentiating between whether that rock is a tiger or a rock. In an effort to protect themselves under defense theory, they assume that it's a tiger until they find out differently, which makes them more anxious than it would if they thought it was a rock. And so this increased anxiety tends to consume more and more of the one remaining gig of cognitive RAM space. So that becomes more and more reduced until the person is looking around and thinking that everything is a threat because they can't tell the difference. They assume that everything is a threat. And so when you see movies about people that are paranoid, they're coming to get them, or it's in a phone booth, remember those? And they think that people are trying to call them and communicate with them. These are expressions of paranoia, which come on by having too much stress, not enough RAM space to process everything. So what do we do about that? I remember that scene from Star Wars where they were trying to attack the Death Star, and I think it was Luke Skywalker says, they're coming too fast. The enemy attackers were coming at him too quickly for him to process them all and to deal with them all. So what I learned from that is the importance of tasks and deadlines being spread out sufficiently so there's time to complete or partially complete one before moving on to the next, and reduce the anxiety and the dissonance of the first one, and then take on the next one. So they're sequential. All happening at the same time can easily put a person into a meltdown state. Remember seeing a list of stress units that a person could have that Christmas, or I guess Hanukkah here in LA or in other places, would count as a certain number of stress units. Death of a parent would be very, very high. Illnesses, car accidents, all that, you add all those up, and if it was over 300, a person was at risk of a meltdown. So I try to sequence things and take on things that I already know how to do. It helps. So the learning curve isn't enormous, and I don't have the stress dealing with that. Spread out the reading of a book, especially a technical book, over a number of weeks. I always felt kind of bad for the people who have to cram for their exams the night before. That's got to count high. I bet that's higher even than Christmas. I'm going to say 300. Imagine having to cram for 5 exams in 1 week. This could put a lot of stress on a person. So, back to the defense theory and reduction of stress and anxiety in the mind. This is why some religions, not all of them, promote meditation, peacefulness, relaxation. In some cases, solitude. Some people get more anxious in solitude, but a lot of people don't. Relaxing music, that doesn't work for me because I'm a musician. I just start thinking about the music and believe that I could have done it better. So, but there are different ways to relax and bring that 63 meg of RAM occupied down to maybe 22 or 10, leaving room for other ideas to come in and other ways of doing things to come in. I'm going to say we're going to be hearing more about defense theory in the future because I can't remember any of the other defense theories. And so for that reason, we're going to stop this podcast early, 9.5-minute mark, so everybody can think about this. And so can I as we contemplate episode 4. Thank you for joining me. And I hope you enjoyed what you heard and that you'll stick around for the next ones. That's it.